Welcome to Tenacity with Sonia C, the podcast where we dive into stories behind success, uncovering lessons learned and the insights gained by leaders and innovators in the business world. I'm your host, Sonia, and let's get started. My guest today is Michael Paul. Michael is the creative force behind Day 3 Fragrances, a visionary fragrance house quickly making its mark on the luxury perfume industry. He is a recipient of some prestigious awards. Michael's unique approach to perfumery blends traditional techniques with modern sensibilities, with a focus on using the best quality ingredients that are good for our skin. Join us as we uncover the stories behind this unique fragrance, discuss the intricacies of the luxury perfume market, and learn how sustainability plays a crucial role in his creations. Get ready to be inspired by a story of innovation, artistry, and tenacity. Let's get started. Hi, Michael. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm good, Sonia. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited for this conversation and to get right into everything that we're going to discuss today.
Me too. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So, could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what inspired you to start 3 Day Fragrances?
I started off as a magician, actually, and I had a trick in my show where I had somebody on stage with me, and I wanted to thank them for participating in the show. And so while they were on stage, I would fold up a cocktail napkin so that it looked like a rose, and I would hand it to my spectator, and I would thank them. And it was just funny to me because every time they would take the napkin, they would smell it, because it was in the shape of a rose. So it's just a natural thing to do. It's like if someone gives you a flower, you smell it. So the joke became like, I'm sorry, it doesn't smell like anything. It just smells like a napkin. And then I started to think like, what if when this person smelled the flower, it smelled like their favorite flower? Like that would be a killer ending to the show. And so I started to experiment with how can I make this napkin smell like each different kind of flower that someone could possibly name. And so that kind of kicked off my hobby, my interest in perfumery. And then COVID happened and everything locked down, and wasn't able to do any shows. So, for a little while, we thought, okay, it's not a problem. We'll just wait it out. And as the lockdowns went on longer, it was kind of stressful. And my daughter, she was 12 years old at the time, and she was sniffing through some of the bottles that I had laying around of perfumes that I'd sort of put together. And she said, Dad, you should just sell these. And I think I explained to her like all the reasons that was totally impossible. I was like, we don't have industry connections, we don't have a marketing budget, and we can't compete in an industry this competitive. And she said, Dad, why do you have to compete? And she said, if someone wanted to just buy a bottle, wouldn't you sell it to them? And
Yeah.
I said, well, yeah, suppose I would. And so that's how Day 3 Fragrances was born.
I love how kids can sort of simplify what we really make complicated, and they're just like, just do it. They don't think about all the other stuff, right?
Yeah, they have a very like simplistic view of the situation, and sometimes that zoomed out view is exactly what you need to hear.
Yeah. So she really inspired you to go on this journey.
She really did. Yeah, and she's a big part of the company to this day. She travels with us, and she takes part in the events, and she helps to test the perfumes. In fact, I've got a perfume coming out later this year that's going to be named after her.
Oh, that's so nice. I love that. So, what's the story behind the brand, the brand name Day 3 Fragrance, and why is it significant to you?
Well, so in the Bible, God creates everything in 6 days, and it's on day 3 that He creates everything that smells good. So day 3 is when He creates everything that sprouts out of the ground, and that's your flowers, your fruits, your woods, your spices, your resins. And so we thought, what a cool name for a fragrance company. Yeah,
That
and
is
we
so
wanted to sort
cool.
of honor that, and so day 3.
Yeah, I love that. That's actually really cool. I don't think I've ever really thought about that.
Yeah, a lot of people ask what the inspiration for the name is because it strikes people as being like very simple and easy to remember, but they're
Mhm.
not quite aware of how we came up with the name. And yeah.
Very unique, that's for sure. So entering the luxury fragrance market can be challenging. What were some of the biggest obstacles you faced, and how did you overcome them?
So the biggest thing was entering the market without any kind of name recognition or brand recognition. And we had a perfume that we had entered into a competition, and we did it just sort of for fun. Like
Mhm.
the philosophy was, well, you never win a contest the first time you enter. It's one of these things where, I mean, I think typically it's a thing where you have to try and try and try again, and then maybe some point down the road you get some sort of recognition.
Mhm.
So we thought, no better time than the present. Let's put a perfume into this competition. So we entered into the Art and Olfaction Awards, which is like the like the Oscars for perfumery.
Okay.
And we got an email a few months later, and this email was saying like, "Hey, you're a finalist." And I thought we were being scammed. Like I didn't think it was real. So it took me a couple times emailing back and forth with these people before I realized, like, oh wow, this is real.
Mhm.
And their awards event is in LA at the time, and we were in Arizona. So I told my wife, like, let's just drive out there and see what happens, because it'll be fun to dress up and go to an award show, even if we don't win. And we went out there and we won, and
Wow.
nobody in the room was more surprised than we were. I mean, we were completely shocked. And so that was sort of the recognition that we needed to sort of kick off the brand. And it happened so fast that we were driving home from the event, and blogs were calling us, and magazines, and people were like reaching out. And so we feel very fortunate that the industry sort of found us instead of having to do a lot of legwork from the beginning.
But that's a huge accomplishment. Like you're early in your, development and selling and building the brand, and you win the Oscar of fragrance, right? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, we were very lucky the way that they judge the awards, because what they do is they take all of these perfumes that come in from all over the world, from these really high end fragrance houses, and they take them out of the bottles and they put them into separate vials, and the vial just has a number on them. So when
Mhm.
the judges receive these perfumes, they're received anonymously. So the judge has no idea if we just opened our house a couple months ago, or if this is a really well established brand. They just go by the quality. And so we
Wow.
were fortunate to run into a situation where we were being judged anonymously, because I think that if they had seen our name and sort of said like, who is this, I have no idea, it would have been harder for us.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's really great that they do that. That way there's no bias in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, yeah, and by doing so, they really help out a lot of perfumers who fail to get recognition in other areas. They
Mhm.
really give these perfumers the spotlight that they deserve, and I think that's awesome. The job that they do at Art and Olfaction is just fantastic.
Okay. So one of the reasons why I had originally contacted you and we connected was over one particular thing. So day three fragrances emphasizes sustainability, skin health, and quality.
Yeah.
Why are these aspects important to you, and how do they influence your product development? I mean, like building, like perfumes are known as like being very what I call dirty. Like they don't necessarily have clean ingredients. They're considered like not good for your skin. So why was this important to you?
Well, I think it's always been really important to us as a family, the things that we put in our bodies. My dad is a sports coach. He coached speed skating for a really long time, and then after that he coached martial arts. And so growing up, it was a matter of always being very conscious of what it was that we were eating and putting on our skin and that kind of thing, because from that perspective it affects your performance. But that just sort of sparked an interest in me as far as how to live in a way where longevity is kind of an issue. Like how are you healthy into your later years, that kind of thing. So for example, I've got two daughters, and neither one of them tasted a soda until they were like 13 years old. So because we were like, no, you're not going to have all that sugar. So that's the kind of family that we are. And so when we did a fragrance, we wanted to make sure that, like, hey, my daughter's going to be wearing this, my wife is going to be wearing this, I put this on my skin. So, and we're small enough where we can control every ingredient, every step of the process, so that when we produce a product, it's exactly what I would want to wear. It's
Mhm.
not like we have to deal with like a big corporation and a bunch of boards and, various individuals that are all kind of like working together. Now I can control the process, like right from the first step to the last step. So I thought, yeah, let's do this in the healthiest, most sustainable way possible.
Okay, so there are certain chemicals and naturals you will not use. How do you qualify uh, quality and luxury without compromising the quality?
So there's an organization called IFRA, and IFRA sort of puts out these guidelines according to the science, what's safe and what's not. And in Europe, they're very strict with the IFRA standards. In Europe, in America, not so much. The In America, you can sell a perfume without it being IFRA compliant.
Mhm.
We choose to be IFRA compliant so that we're within those guidelines. And what we'll do is it, we'll use naturals wherever we can because they're beautiful and they smell amazing. But sometimes a natural is not good for your skin. So, for example, like grapefruit oil is a very popular scent. You'll see grapefruit listed in the top notes of a lot of perfumes, but you can't actually use a real grapefruit oil, or you shouldn't, because when you apply it to your skin and then you go out to the sun, it'll actually burn your skin. And
Oh,
so there are certain times where we would rather use something that was created in a lab. Um, Grapefruit's a great example. We'll use a lab created synthetic because it's just safer for the person's skin. And we think that's very important. The other thing we do is we'll use synthetic musks because musks are derived from animal sources.
mm,
And we choose to not use anything that's animal sourced just because, better safe than sorry, better for the environment, it's more sustainable. And if we don't have to hurt animals, let's not.
not a lot of people think about building a brand with all of those things in mind because at the end of the day, the bottom line is sales, right? So
Right.
they'll put anything in a product if it meets the demand and brings revenue up. So, what is your goal, your long-term goal with the brand?
You know what? We've grown so fast, honestly, that it's hard to sort of articulate a long-term goal because we've been so shocked with the growth that we've had so far. So I think the position that we're in now, what I would like to do long term is be a brand that educates the public, who puts out a good quality product, but then also educates people as to why it's a good quality. Um, so, for example, we've been giving talks at perfume events recently about how somebody can improve their sense of smell and nose training and that kind of thing. We just want to be a source of information for
Mhm.
the public because I think that once you have a more educated market, I think that that's safer for everybody.
Yeah,
Like one of the things that we run up against all the time is people will ask, "Are your perfumes clean?" Or what's something else they would say? Are they all natural?
yeah,
And unfortunately, what's happening is everyone's sort of asking the same thing, which is, can I put this on my skin and not have to worry about it? Like, is this okay if I apply it to my skin? Do you care enough about my skin to produce a quality that, I should be wearing? And unfortunately, the verbiage that they're using, it's a result of a lot of marketing that's taking place right now. So a company will come out and they'll say something like, well, here's a clean fragrance. Well, what does that mean? Clean
yeah,
fragrance, or someone will say, well, we're using all naturals. Well, okay, but what if somebody has an allergy to a natural, or what if you're using a natural that's not safe?
yeah,
What if you're refusing to use a synthetic, but in some instances synthetic is so much better for the skin? So it's an uphill climb for sure, but we want to be that company that sort of educates.
yeah. I love that. I mean, you're thinking about yourself for the products you want to use, and in return, you think about everyone else, right? So you're sort of a conscious company.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that's better for the long term profitability of the company also,
Yeah.
because we don't want to just make a single sale and then that customer goes away and they're displeased or they find out something about day three fragrances that they don't like.
Hmm.
We want to have fans. We want customers where they buy a fragrance, they fall in love with it, but then also they know, hey, this is a family that I can trust and this is a perfumer that I can trust because then that customer returns. So we can be conscious about these things, and then also it's good for the company.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with that. So, how do you compete in the luxury market? Because that's the space that you're in, and not everyone goes into that. And how do you compete against established brands with traditional formulations?
It's not as hard as you would think, actually,
Okay.
because our little niche where we're at is people who are looking for really high quality perfumes, or it's actually called the niche market. So people are looking for niche perfumes, and that's where we can really stand out because the quality of our perfumes is so high. What you have is you have some designer brands where they make clothing mostly. I'm sure you can think of a bunch off the top of your head. Like if you go into a mall, you see a lot of these brands for sale, like in the fragrance section of your favorite department store. But what happens is these companies are really focused on clothing and they need something else to add to their line that they can sell their customers for a profit. So they'll go to a perfumer and they'll write out a brief, which will say, like, okay, I need something that's going to appeal to just about everybody. And it has to come in at this budget. And we would like it done by this date. So the perfumer is not really emotionally connected to the perfume. He's trying to keep it under a certain budget so that it can be profitable. So he's not really using the best materials. And what you get is something that kind of smells just like everything else. Like if you go to the mall and you smell through the fragrance section, everything smells the same.
Mhm.
And it's a little bit easier for a niche company to stand out because we can do something with pizzazz, with personality, something that jumps out so that when you smell it, it really hits you a certain way. And so competing against those companies is not as difficult as it would seem.
Okay. Well, I agree. I do
Oh,
love.
awesome.
Okay, so I want to ask, like, which one is your favorite? Because you have so many. I had such a hard time with all of them. I was like, I love them all. Which one is your favorite?
Yeah, we hear that a lot. We'll ask somebody what was your favorite, and they'll say like, "Here's my top seven." Well, there's nine in the set. There's nine in the line right now, and it's kind of like picking a favorite kid.
Yeah.
I have different favorites in different situations.
Yeah.
Um, Cita de Cafe was our award winner, and that's one of my favorites because it was built for my mom, and that has like a very personal story behind it. Right now in the warm weather, we have a perfume called Bani, and Bani is just a beautifully complex mango fragrance. And so that's been getting a lot of attention, and I love wearing that in the summertime.
So can you tell us about the first one and a little bit about the story behind it?
Yeah, for sure. So we opened the fragrance house, and I wanted to do a perfume for my mom. Well, she's my mother-in-law, but what happens is I don't really have a relationship with my biological mother. And when I met my wife is Dominican, and that culture is very family oriented.
Yeah.
So we would go over to her mom's house, and after a while, her mom just sort of like pulled me into the family. I was sort of like adopted in, and I became her son. And she would always serve us a little cup of coffee and a slice of Dominican cake with a little spoonful of brown sugar. And after a while, I started to associate these scents of her coffee and her cake with the feeling of like having a mom again, you know? So when I smell those things, I'm like, oh, I smell like a mother's love, you
Mhm.
know? And so I said I wanted to do a fragrance that sort of honors that moment and those scents. So we built a coffee fragrance, and we designed the accords, the little parts of the fragrance to match the scents in her home exactly. And then we put them together and we made this perfume. And then we gave it to her and we said, we made this for you. So we would like you to name it. And after a couple of weeks, she said, whenever I wear this perfume, I feel like I'm sitting with my little cup of coffee. And so we named it Cita de Cafe, which is Spanish for little cup of coffee. And actually, that was the one that ended up winning the Art and Olfaction Awards.
I love it. And you know what? I have to say that was my favorite.
Oh, okay.
It was my favorite. It just they were all so good, but that one like it just stood out. I'm like I kept going back to it. I'm like, "Oh, this is so good."
Yeah, you know what? I wear it a lot in the morning time. Like if I'm gonna have a stressful day or if I'm a little stressed out in the morning, I'll spray that on because to me it feels like wearing a hug. Like for me, it's almost a stress relief type
Yeah,
fragrance. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Well, I mean, with the story behind it, I understand why. So tell us a little bit more about what you're up to, and you just won another award, right?
We did. Yeah, we went out to the Pineapple Fragrance Festival in LA, and we won awards for our tobacco fragrance, Filosofia. That won best fall fragrance. And then I won Perfumer of the Year.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. Congratulations. That's
Thanks very much.
amazing.
It feels super weird because I feel like I didn't even belong on the list, with all of these
Perfumer of
like
the year.
awesome
That's
names.
a big deal.
Yeah. It was fun, and I was super honored, but I almost get like an imposter syndrome. I feel like, oh, I didn't really belong on this list, but I'm just thankful that everyone enjoyed the work so much that they put me there. So I
Yeah, so
appreciated it.
let's talk about this imposter syndrome a little bit. I
Yeah,
feel like you almost fell into this like accidentally.
yeah.
And so you have all these feelings. What do you do to sort of like overcome that and keep yourself going?
I'm not sure if you ever do actually. Um, so what we try to do, or what I try to do, is I try to stay as authentic as I can. There are these inspirations that I have, or memories that I have, that I want to build a scent around.
Hmm.
And I just have to go in with the attitude of, okay, I'm going to execute on this memory or on this inspiration to the best of my ability. And then whatever happens, happens. And it's getting more and more stressful with every release, because these releases are getting more and more popular, and the reviews are really good. And so now when I come out with something different, I don't want to be a letdown now. Now I feel like there's a bigger crowd of people who are expecting something great, and I'm like, okay, that's a lot of pressure. But sometimes you just have to stop and pause and just say, I'm going to execute on this particular thing to the best of my ability, and sort of get a tunnel vision, and then just be willing to say whatever happens, happens, and then release your work out into the world, and you know
Hmm.
take the results as they come.
So you're winning all of these awards, which is making your perfumes more popular. So what's your plan, or what happens when you blow up and you have more demands? How are you going to sustain the quality of what you're doing with the demand of it, wanting the market to want more and for you to produce more?
Yeah, it's a great question. Right now, we're just a family business, so everybody that works in the company is in our family.
Hmm.
And I'm really kind of stressed out about the day that I have to look outside my family, because what they say, like, good help is hard to find.
Yeah.
We've been extremely blessed so far, because my daughter right now is only 16 years old. She works in the company, and believe it or not, she's absolutely amazing. My niece is in the other office right now packing up orders, and I could not ask for a better employee. Like, she's fantastic. And so I am kind of worried about like what happens when I have to find somebody else. But I think that we'll just take that as it comes. Right now, we have the ability to compound a lot of material and produce a lot of material. We have a full compounding lab in the house with coolers that we use for macerating, and we're able to put out quite a bit of volume. At some point, we may have to have a compounding house put together the materials for us, but thankfully, we can still be in control of the formula. So I can dictate what goes into the formula and then just have somebody else make it for us. But we want to push that off for as long as possible, because we like being really hands on.
Yeah, I get that. But with that also comes more responsibility on you as a founder. And how do you balance, work, life, and the demand of a growing company?
It's hard. We start with taking one day as a Sabbath every week. We have one day where we say, okay, there's not going to be any work, no phones, no computers. That's really important for our mental health. And I think that everybody should be doing that. It's so tempting now when you have a cell phone that you can reach for, and you have social media on your phone. I feel like no matter what industry you're in, it's very tempting to just grab your phone and start working,
Yeah.
whether it's 10 o'clock at night, or it's, right before bed, first thing in the morning. And I think that's a huge mistake. I think there has to be some sort of guidelines where you can say, okay, this is work time and this is personal time. And that's not easy, to be
No.
honest with you, especially when you're working from the house, because it's so tempting to wake up, roll out of bed, and just walk right into the lab or into the office and just start working. I have to tell my wife all the time, like, my wife is just nonstop hustle. And I have to tell her, like, you have to come out of the office at some point. But the office is right next to the living room. So, even if we happen to be watching a movie or grabbing dinner, she may just drop her fork at some point and just run into the office and do something. And I'm like, no, you can't do that.
I could see myself doing that. I'm just gonna check one thing really quick.
Right. Yeah, it's so tempting. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how much marketing have you had to do? Because it sounds to me like with the awards you're winning and just the brand is sort of building itself. So, how much effort do you actually have to put into the marketing?
Almost none.
Wow.
Almost none. We developed a strategy where instead of doing traditional marketing and then having to put ourselves out there in that way, we thought there would be more credibility if
Mm,
instead we developed a system where we had discovery kits, which is what you were holding up a moment ago. And those discovery kits are basically samples of every fragrance in the line.
yeah.
And then we sell those at cost. So customers know that they're getting a tremendous deal to get a discovery set for 35 bucks. And
Yeah.
then what we do is when you buy a discovery set, we give you $35 off any full bottle. So essentially, you're getting the discovery kit for free. And because we sell so many of those in that way, we're getting the product out there so that people can try them on their skin. And so what's happening is instead of being influenced by marketing or by an influencer, people are actually purchasing bottles because they've tried it on their skin and they love it. And we feel that's more effective than going the traditional route because you have more of a connection to the fragrance and you know that it works on your skin. So we don't have to convince you to buy a bottle. You'll convince yourself.
I think that's genius because when I received your set, I tried them all on and I knew which ones I liked and I sort of put them aside. And then one day my sister came over and I'm like, try these. And they smelled completely different on her.
Right.
And the one that she ended up really liking was totally different than the one I really liked. So what you're saying makes sense. And that's actually like, that's a really smart marketing idea.
Yeah, and we really feel like if you try out everything in the set, you may even find something that you didn't expect to like.
Mm.
So you might be on the website reading about the notes of the perfume and you might think to yourself like, "Well, that's not really going to work for me." And then suddenly you try it on your skin and it's magical. And the first time that you leave the house and some stranger says, "Oh my god, what are you wearing?" You're sold on that bottle. You'll be back and you'll buy a bottle. And then the one thing that we do, and I don't know if you would consider this marketing, but then we will send emails after the fact and we'll just ask people, how did you like this? Leave us a review. So that
Mm.
when people come to the website and they see that there's several hundred reviews per fragrance of people, just all 5-star reviews, like I loved it. We feel like there's some credibility there, you know, some social proof where it makes it easier to pull the trigger and buy that bottle.
I also really love that you're not in stores. And when I'm with someone, they're like, oh, that perfume smells really nice. It's not anything that they've ever smelled before. So it's not like, the 100 ones that are on the shelf and every woman is wearing it. It's very unique. And people always ask me, what are you wearing? And I'm like, oh yeah, it's this unique perfume because it feels very custom to me in a way because it's
Yes.
like it feels personal because I chose that scent.
Yeah, it's almost exclusive to you
Yeah,
because you can't get it just anywhere. And so yeah, and it's fun when somebody recognizes that you smell good. It's like such a wonderful compliment. Like it really boosts your ego, can make
yeah.
your entire day. And I find that there's something that's just magical about leaving the house and you feel so good about yourself that confidence really shines through. So a perfume can really change your whole appearance just by the way it makes you feel.
So before we wrap up, a couple more questions. So is this perfume for, is it cologne? Is it perfume? Is it for men and women? Is it for both? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the fragrances are all unisex.
Okay.
Here in America, what we like to do is we like to say, well, colognes are for men and perfumes are for women.
Yeah.
And what those words actually are, though, are their descriptions of how diluted a product is. So
Oh,
colognes are just very, very, very diluted fragrance. They're usually citrus that's extremely light, and then perfumes are more concentrated. And that's the definition of the word anyway. And here, culturally, we just think, well, men wear colognes and women wear perfumes. But if you go to the higher end boutiques, What they usually do is they'll usually break things up instead of into men and women. They'll break them up into what the notes of the fragrance are. So they'll say, here's our rose, here's our leather, here's our tobacco, here's our iris. And if you like that fragrance, you just purchase it and you wear it. So I think that with most of our fragrances, they tend to go straight down the line. They don't really lean too feminine or too masculine. You can kind of get away with either.
That's so interesting. I had no idea that that's how it works. I feel like men are kind of getting ripped off a little bit. I feel like they're
Yeah.
getting the low quality end of it.
Yeah, and it's a shame because there are so many awesome florals out there, especially that guys are just afraid to wear. But if you
Yeah,
try it on your skin, oh man, they're beautiful. Like here in America, culturally, we just tend not to wear a lot of rose. If you're a guy, you don't wear rose. But if
right.
you go over into the Middle East, that's a very masculine fragrance, is rose.
Totally.
So I think what you have to do, like when you're shopping for a perfume, is just sort of put all of that out of your mind and do your best to just smell the fragrance and just ask yourself, do I like this? And
Mhm.
always leave your friends at home. Never try a fragrance like with your friends, because you don't want to get talked into buying something that you don't really like. So it has to be like, if you love it, go for it.
Love it. So, can you share a failure that you had in your journey while developing this brand, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, I think when we first launched, like on the first day, we had two perfumes that I had developed previously for myself, and I put them together because they smell great, and that's where we launched. And they didn't do fantastic. They didn't really resonate with people.
Mhm.
And since then, we've learned that when we build something that's like authentic to our culture, to our family, we do a lot of Dominican inspired perfumes because that's our family culture.
Mhm.
We feel like that resonates more with people, and those sell better because they have a better story. They're more authentic. They really stand out in the marketplace. And I think when we released those first two, it was really a failure to understand our customer,
Mm.
because our customers are collectors of super high end niche fragrance. They're the people that are looking for something really different. And you don't want to get lost in this massive sea of competition where everyone's producing something that smells good.
Mhm.
Um, so we found out that we can stand out by being authentic to who we really are, and then letting people fall in love with like our story and our culture and our particular style instead of just putting something out that smells good. And I it was a tough lesson to learn, but it was really important. Now we have more of a vision moving forward as to, okay, if we just stay authentic to who we are, like we're going to be okay.
Okay. And finally, could you share? I know you've told us your favorite, but could you share some of your personal favorite or recommend from Day Three Fragrance Collection?
Ooh, when the weather gets a little bit cooler, like at night, I love Philosophia, which is our tobacco fragrance, but it's balanced with chocolate and cashmere, because it's almost gourmand. It's almost sweet enough to eat, but it has that earthiness from the tobacco, and there's a little touch of leather in there. So for me, that's a very sexy fragrance, and that just makes me feel good wearing it.
Mhm.
Lita de Cafe, I already mentioned. I love to wear that in the morning time. Say Less is actually our iris fragrance, and that's a really fresh. Like if I'm going out and I'm wearing like a white t-shirt, it's kind of warm outside, I'll wear Say Less because I just feel like it fits like the outfit. A lot of
Okay.
these fragrances, we have what's called like a fragrance wardrobe. So a lot of collectors will have 7, 8, 9 fragrances, but they'll wear them in all different situations, almost like you would have different clothing. And you'd wear, you wouldn't wear a little black dress to go out shopping first thing in the morning, at the grocery store,
Yeah.
right? So that's kind of how we treat our fragrances too.
I love it. That's awesome. I never really thought about that, but it's like having a perfume for an outfit.
Yeah, yeah, or for like your attitude or your feeling for that day or for the weather outside.
So if I have a day where I have to work really hard because I have things on my deadlines and I have to get done, I should wear this perfume today because it's gonna like
Yeah,
motivate me. Love it.
yeah.
Love
And
it.
it's not always easy because sometimes you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, what do I wear? Everything smells good, but it's nice having choices.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Michael, thank you so much for joining me today. I feel like I learned a lot about perfume And I
Well,
feel
thank you so
like
much for
my
having me.
perception of it is going to be completely different now. And now I'm going to go and buy all of them.
Excellent. All right.
But
So
I do love these samples. They're a great way to start with choosing which one is your favorite for sure.
yeah,
Um,
and you can get the whole set basically for free.
yeah.
Day3fragrances.com. It's $35. We ship them for free too. So you don't even pay the shipping. And then when you end up buying your bottle, we ship your bottle for free. So really the kit is just about free.
So the website is day3fragrance.com. They can
Fragrances. Yep.
fragrances.com. They can order all of the perfumes there and you guys ship.
Yeah, and we do everything just right here in the family. So when you order a fragrance from us, I personally make the bottle with my own two hands. My wife signs the thank you card with your name on it. We package it and ship it out right from here. So you're really getting like a family product. You're getting like a little piece of us.
Oh, that's so nice. I love that. Well, thank you so much. I hope that our listeners go to your website and order the starting kit or a perfume. I mean, you can't go wrong with any of them. They're all beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing your journey and your experience as an entrepreneur. And I hope you win lots more awards.
Thank you. Yeah, it was so much fun talking to you. You know, anytime you want to do it again, just let me know.
Oh my gosh, yes, totally. I would love to. I mean, I feel like if I had more time, we could go really dig deep into it. So we'll have to do it again for sure.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sonia.
Thank you for tuning in today. I want to thank Michael for joining us and sharing his incredible journey from a renowned musician to a creator of a luxury perfume brand. His story is a testament to the power of following your dreams, embracing change, and using pivotal moments to transform your path. Michael's tenacity and dedication to building a brand that honors both his family, values, and ethical practices are truly inspiring. I hope his story encourages you to pursue your passions with courage and creativity. To our listeners, thank you for joining me on this journey of discovery and inspiration. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform and join our community on social media. I would love to hear from you. Leave a review and tell me what topics you'd like me to explore in future episodes. Remember, the future belongs to those who embrace change and innovation with tenacity. Keep striving, keep innovating, and most importantly, stay tenacious in your pursuits. Thank you for tuning in. I look forward to bringing you more inspiring conversations in our upcoming episodes. This is Sonia signing off, but as always, remember to chase your dreams with tenacity.